the perception of both Partygate and the mini-budget was that actually it was one rule for us and a different one for the country, and that in power we would put our ideology and our interests ahead of the national interest. The irony is that Rishi, during the whole of COVID, was an exceptionally fastidious and disciplined and focused public servant, and he was the one who was critical of the path that Liz was going to take us down. So he was on the other side of the argument, as it were, when both of these mistakes occurred, but it's still the case overall that the mud sticks to the Conservative name, unfortunately.
Tories Michael Gove and Labour's Harriet Harman. Michael, let me come to you first. Can there be any recovery for Mr. Sunak from the D-Day snub?
Yes, there can. And of course, it was, as he freely acknowledged, as everyone's acknowledged, a mistake. But I myself know that when you make mistakes in politics, of course, acknowledge them, apologise, but then bounce back with additional energy. I remember my own failed attempt, as it happens, in the 2019 leadership election, when all sorts of stuff hit the press about mistakes that I'd made in the past. People expected me to pull out. There was speculation that it was all over. And I decided that what I needed to do was to show energy, aggression, punch, in order to get things back on track. So we all make mistakes in politics. The important thing to do is not to be hangdog about it. It's to find a way of arresting attention, find a way of moving the conversation on and playing to your strengths.
So how does he do that?
Well, I think by using the manifesto launch tomorrow to get the conversation back on the economy and tax in particular.
Harriet, Michael says we all make mistakes. That's certainly true, but this mistake was a Krakatoa of a mistake, wasn't it? Bigger even, I would suggest, than Gordon Brown's bigoted woman gaffe in 2010.
I think it's really out of its league mistake. And I think if I was advising Rishi Sunak, which I'm not, obviously, I would be really stuck for how to suggest he gets past it. Because what was happening is we were all watching the telly, and even those who aren't military-minded or steeped in history, you know, you just had tears in your eyes looking at these vets.
Of course.
And it was we only have one Prime Minister, and he's the Prime Minister. He was representing all of us, but he actually went off. And so, the normal thing would be you just take a bit of a backward step for a little while and you hope people had forgotten about it. But as Michael says, he's supposed to be getting back into the fray. And the trouble is, if he does that, it looks as though he doesn't realise how hurt and actually dismayed everybody was. So I think he's really stuck. And he was trying to shore up the pensioner vote with the triple lock plus and with the national service, which is not for pensioners, but was supposed to appeal to the older generation. And they are the most aggrieved, I think, by what he's done. But I'm trying to have my expectations kept low. And I know Michael is trying to stay optimistic. I think both of us are facing a challenge right now on that.
No, I can hear that, but let me go back to Michael. You heard Kwasi Kwarteng there, Michael. Do you agree? Is it a fair thing to say that your party, your government, has never really recovered from the cluster truss interregnum?
Well, I think that there were two big episodes in the last Parliament that caused us significant problems. Partygate and then Liz's mini-budget. I think when we were elected in 2019, it was on the basis that we were a different type of Conservative Party, a Conservative Party for the whole country, and the perception of both Partygate and the mini-budget was that actually it was one rule for us and a different one for the country, and that in power we would put our ideology and our interests ahead of the national interest. Now, I can argue the case about why I think that Partygate was unfair on Boris personally and why there was more to Liz than just the mini-budget, but I'd be whistling in the wind. Those two things were significant problems. The irony is that Rishi, during the whole of COVID was an exceptionally fastidious and disciplined and focused public servant. And he was the one who was critical of the path that Liz was going to take us down. So he was on the other side of the argument, as it were, when both of these mistakes occurred. But it's still the case overall that the mud sticks to the Conservative name, unfortunately.
Harriet, I wonder if the Tories' continual problems in this campaign have not given Labour a bit of a get-out-of-jail card of proper scrutiny of their tax and spend policies. We know they're trying to say, oh, we won't spend very much more, and we've added up these small extra taxes are going to pay for it. But the fact is, an incoming Labour government, when we look at the state of the public finances, will be under huge pressure to increase spending on health, welfare, social spending. We even have to increase on defence as well. And it cannot do that without substantial increases in tax. It's less than honest to say otherwise, is it not?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Andrew, about the scale of the problems that we'll face if it is any incoming government, but say it's a Labour government. You know, the economy's on low productivity, low growth. The public services are underinvested and massive problems. And you know, we have said we will not borrow, we will not be putting up income tax and VAT and national insurance, and therefore there is this, you know, allegation about that we won't support public services. But if I could just take you back to what we did in 97, because we know we needed to reassure people that we would be safe, the economy and public spending would be safe in our hands and the public finances would be safe in our hands, we said we would match the Conservative spending for 2 years. And they had put in big cuts for the first 2 years of a Labour government. We said we'd match it. And we did, and it was incredibly painful. People have forgotten that now. But we did exactly as we said, not putting up taxes and actually cutting spending. And because we had that contract with the public. And Keir Starmer has once again made that contract with the public, and we will stick to it. I mean, the only thing that we
For 2 years.
Only thing that's not obviously clear yet is whether we'll be able to get the economy growing faster and therefore there'll be less pressure on the public finances. But I think he's made a very big promise, and I think Rachel Reeves is not just doing it tactically. I think she believes that that's how you should run the public finances. There will be immense political pressure on them, but I think they're determined to stick to it, as they should. If you put it in your manifesto, you've got to stick to it.
Indeed, that's why I'm asking. And of course, you inherited a growing economy by 1997, and it's not quite clear that's going to happen in 2024. Michael, let me come back to you and say, if the polls are right and the Conservatives are heading for a historic defeat, which could lead to some kind of realignment on the right, or at least a consideration of what the options are after a historic defeat, as all parties need to go through that. Should you be putting feelers out to reform? Should you be talking to Nigel Farage? Should you be encouraging a realignment on the right?
No. I think the first thing is, for all candidates who are involved in this campaign, they should be thinking about everything up to July the 4th and not after. Then the second thing is, after July the 4th, whatever the result, a period of humility, reflection and consideration would be called on as people digest what the result means and what the people have told us. So someone now attempting to game out precisely what should happen afterwards is A, being disrespectful to the electorate. Elections matter. We're having a conversation about the future. There are clear choices. And secondly, they're not yet in possession of the hard facts of how people have voted, which will enable us then to form a judgment about the direction politics in the country should take.
That's a fair point. Harriet Harman, I'll finish with you. We are in possession after yesterday's European elections of the hard facts of Europe's direction. And it's not a direction that Labour will particularly want to go in. You've got the nationalist right coming first in Italy, coming first in France, coming second in Germany. Your old allies, the German Social Democrats, coming a very poor third in chaos. Could be that you may have to deal with a hard right government controlling the French Parliament. How are you going to handle all that? That's not the kind of Europe that you didn't want to leave in 2016.
Well, I think that's an absolutely fair analysis, and we've got problems on the economy and the public services. We've got problems with the Middle East, and also, as you say, in Europe. But I think what is going to be necessary is an utterly pragmatic approach, and I think that we've seen David Lammy, interestingly, working incredibly hard. One of the things I thought about D-Day that was interesting is that Keir Starmer was already, working hard with the other European leaders in order to build those bridges with whoever is on the up in Europe. I think he's going to have to work with whoever's there in the interests of this country, and that's what he'll do pragmatically.
Well, I look forward to seeing David Lammy work with Marine Le Pen. That will be an interesting development indeed.